Good evening, everybody. Today is March 9th. This is Cutler here in the Let's Talk to Cutler program, the Let's Talk to Cutler broadcast. And I want to say thank you for joining me. If you're new to my channel, if this is your first time here, do me a favor and go ahead and subscribe and then hit that bell so you can receive notifications whenever I'm up live. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I'm here because my goal is to make sure that we are motivated. My goal is to make sure that we are on a quest to become better. My goal is to make sure that we realize that in this from a very practical perspective, we can always show up better tomorrow than we have shown up today. And so for that, I'm thankful that you all decide to join this ride with me. I tell people so often that I'm just riding down the highway and I'm reading the billboards and seeing how we can become better. And as I'm riding down the highway and I'm looking at the billboards, my goal is to make sure that I pick up other passengers who will join this ride with me. So I want to say thank you for being one of the passengers. And I want to ask you this evening, as you are on your quest to become better, I want to ask you, what is your survival song? We all have one. We have a song where we really say, this should have happened or this could have happened, but then we put in that contraction but. I want to talk about our survival songs this evening and how we survived and the outcome changed. I want to do that as soon as I come right back. Hang on, I'll be right back.
Let's talk to God. One more thing, like, subscribe and share. Come on, let's talk to God. Woo!
Well, I'm back. It's Cutler here in the Let's Talk to Cutler broadcast. Thank you all so much for joining me. You know how I do it. I'm only here for 1,800 seconds, and I have to make sure that every second is significant, every moment is meaningful, and every minute has to matter because I don't want to waste your time. But I want us to be better for these Tuesdays and Thursdays when we get together at 8 o'clock each evening. And I want to say thanks again for whatever space you've allowed me to share. As you all know, every Tuesday and Thursday, when we come together, on Tuesday, we'll read our quotes from this book right here, Billboards to Better, 366 daily sources of motivation and inspiration along the highway of life. It's Billboards to Better. And the 366 so that you have one for every day, including leap year. And what you may not know, if you don't have the book yet, what you may not know is that there are some bonus quotes at the end of the book. So if you haven't bought the book yet, go on to Amazon.com and pick up the book, or you could go to my website, www.gbcutler.com, and pick up the book, because there are, and I just let the cat out of the bag, there are some bonus quotes at the back at the end of the book. My goal is to make sure that we're all better. All right, you all. So make sure you get the book, because every Tuesday we'll read our quotes from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And then every Thursday we'll read our quotes from Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I often say that when you get to the quote on Saturday, it's all day your way. Take that quote, use it to start a conversation, use it as a part of your meditation, whatever you do, just make sure you read it so that we can chat about it at some point. Because from time to time, I do talk about the Saturday quotes, you all. I want to thank those of you who decided to come on in and join the chat early. If you haven't done so, come on in, join the chat. And I want to shout out our LTTC VIPs for the evening, our LTTC VIPs. And they are Jackie Cares RN. So good to see you. Linda Martin. So good to see you. T Cutler. So good to see all of you all. It looks like joining the chats this evening, becoming some of our passengers are lots of my relatives. It's so good to see all of you all. And you all know how we do it here. On this channel, we are spreading love. We are uplifting people. We're reminding each of the passengers, hey, you can be better tomorrow, right? You can be better tomorrow than you were today. Come on, let's do this thing together. We're going and we're growing together. So it's so good to see everybody. It's so good to see all of you all. Make sure that you do a thumbs up on the conversation. We have some things to talk about tonight. We have to talk about survival stories. I can't wait until we talk about survival stories. All right, well, go ahead and do a thumbs up on the conversation. It says to Amazon, Amazon is where the book is. It says rather to YouTube that you like the content. It reminds me that you are encouraged and that we truly are riding along this highway together and we're becoming better together. I can't think of a more lovely group of people with whom I'd rather become better than with you. Yeah, I know it. I just see your names and you're thinking, well, you only see my name. How could that be the case? I see your names and I get used to you, and I know who you are, and I know that we are in this quest. We're here because it is our goal to be inspired. Nobody wants to go through the drudgery of living. Nobody wants to go through the drudgery of day to day to day to day and the dread and the humdrum. No, we want to be inspired. We want to be motivated. We want to be challenged, all to become better. And that is why we're here. That's why I show up every Tuesday and every Thursday. And I can't help but believe that is why you show up as well. So I'm always humbled that you would show up no matter how crowded our car may be, or no matter how sparse or dense the car itself may be. I'm thankful for those of you who show up consistently. All right, so I'm not going to bore you. I'm going to go ahead and get started. But I just want to say thank you. I start every Tuesday and Thursday by saying thank you for sharing the space, because you don't have to do that. So thank you all so much. Hey, speaking of sharing, make sure that you share this channel. And again, if you've already subscribed, make sure you hit the bell so you'll know that I'm live and that I've uploaded new content. I want to get started with our conversation by reading the quote for March the 7th. That is our Sunday quote. You know, we'll start on Tuesdays. We start with Sunday, Monday, and then Tuesday. So I want to get started with the quote for March the 7th. You all hang on. The quote for March 7th says, it's just a challenging question. What if God handled us the same way that we handle him? Now, no, this is not going to be one of those fire, brimstone, hell, damnation messages. This is about inspiration. I know that my book of quotes is spiritually based and spiritually grounded, but it is never a message of gloom and doom and despair and hellfire, brimstone. Not at all. My messages are really, so for people who are concerned and you want to say, well, what is he talking about? It's about love and wholeness and wholesomeness and inspiration and motivation. That's what it is about. So as I look at this one, I think about those of us who really want to be holistically, who want to be completely well and well-rounded. And for this one, I think those of us who want to be spiritually whole and spiritually well and spiritually grounded, I think about how we sometimes can mistreat people. I think about how we bully people. Not us, but I think about how we how we ignore people, how we mishandle people, how we disregard people. I think about all of that, you all. I think about how we sometimes treat people like they don't even exist. Lord help us. I also think that then there are times when we don't acknowledge people. Sometimes we don't acknowledge them until we need them. And then maybe after they've obtained some degree or modicum of success to the point where we think that they are good enough to be in our circles, then we will acknowledge them. I often think about things like that. And I think about how we ignore God until we need him. And if this one doesn't resonate with you, if this one doesn't resonate with you, y'all, I promise you the next one will. So hang on. Just give me an opportunity tonight, if you will. But I think about sometimes how we ignore God until we need him. And I think about how out of sight really does mean out of mind. I think how some of us only acknowledge him at Christmas and Easter, those sorts of things. And then I think about maybe even a wedding party when you have husband and wife who are getting married and the bride and the groom, they stand there and they pledge their love that they will be together no matter what comes or goes, for better or for worse. And it seems like so many times in our relationship with God, we are in it for the better, but he really is in it during the worst. And I want to remind us, this quote, you all, is to remind us to take a moment to renew our faith, to renew our joy, and to renew our hope, and to renew our commitment. This quote reminds me of the song that I used to sing growing up, I need thee every hour. In our relationships, one of the things that we look for is consistency. We like consistency, you all. Consistency in our communications, consistency in what and how we contribute to the relationship, consistency in how we just show up, how we be, how we present from one day to the next, consistency in terms of how we respond to conflict. We like consistency. That is who we are. So consistency in terms of how we respond to conflict. And then when there is inconsistency, in those moments of inconsistency, it can sometimes throw us off of our game. Because while we're creatures of habit, but we are really creatures of consistency. And inconsistency, it will throw me off of my game. But I think that one of the true marks of character is to be able to maintain consistency and to stay connected, even in the midst, or maybe especially in the midst of chaos, especially in the midst of tragedy, especially in the midst of trials and in the midst of change, to maintain consistency in the midst of chaos and trauma and change and trial. That's a true mark of character. And I think I'm just thinking about this whole piece of how what if God handled us the way we handle him, you all. So many things are just dancing through my head. I think how we sometimes treat relatives that we may be embarrassed of or ashamed of for whatever reason. And we don't want anyone to know that we are connected to them. And we will deal with them in private, but there is no public acknowledgement or public confession of who they are in our lives. And I'm not suggesting that I'm not suggesting, as I talk about handling God the way that he handles us, I'm not trying to suggest that anybody becomes a preacher or an evangelist or a missionary or anything. But if you're going to have a strong spiritual core, and that's what I'm talking about, if you're going to have a strong spiritual core, then you all be okay. Be okay with acknowledging the one who grounds you, the one who gives you hope, the one who sees you through, the one who fills the void. Because guess what, you all? We have access to so much and to so many things, but we restrict our own access when we restrict different people out of our lives. And when we restrict the one who is capable of giving us the things that we need, it is within our power. So let's not handle him the way, let's not put ourselves in the position to be handled like we sometimes handle him. Have you ever had the occasion to, where you didn't speak with someone for a long time? I'm guilty of this, I tell you all. And when you got ready to call the person, you decided to just hang up the phone because internally you decided that you didn't want to have to go through the exercise of explaining why you hadn't spoken for as long as you had. And you decide, nope, I'd rather just hang up the phone. And you did that. And ultimately more and more time will go by. And then one day suddenly turns into a year since you spoke with that person. I suspect that the same thing happens in our interactions with God. He truly, and sometimes he really is the out of sight, out of mind kind of entity. But I want to encourage your hearts this evening, especially for those of us who are looking to be better from a spiritual plateau. I find it amazing, my friends, that the one who gives us a voice really wants to hear that voice. But it's so ironic that that's the one that we talk to the least. So that's a challenge. That is a challenge for those of us who really want to be spiritually whole and spiritually better, because we're talking about becoming better. Remember that you have a voice, and this is the moment of inspiration. I want you to understand that the creator of the world knows your voice and wants to hear your voice. One of the most powerful things that spoke to my soul one day was when someone said to me, God knows your voice. He just wants to hear you a little more. That was it. There was no hellfire and brimstone. It was just that. It was the fact that the creator, the God of the universe, loved me enough, knew my voice, and wanted to hear it. All right. I just wanted to share that with you all. Just wanted to share that with you. We're going to move on to March 8th, our quote from March 8th. And I'm so glad that this is speaking to some of you, because my goal and my hope is that these quotes will resonate with us. And they may not always resonate with all of us all the time, but my hope is that something will always be said on a Tuesday or on a Thursday when we come together and share this space and this time, that some of these passengers along the car will feel better and will become better for our experience. All right, you all, only got 1,800 seconds, and I'm moving on to our quote for March the 8th. Now, March the 8th is really the quote that is the crux of our conversation here this evening. And some of you all have heard me say this. This is one of my all-time favorite quotes in this book. Yes, I wrote it, but this is one of my favorite quotes. And so I'll try to maintain myself emotionally. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll take a sip of this tea to just sort of center myself and calm down. It's good to see all of you all here in the chat. If you haven't done so, make sure that you do a thumbs up. You all, the quote from March 8th says this: "Because of grace, we survived on battlegrounds where we should have died. Because of grace, we survived on battlegrounds where we should have died." This quote is a reminder that we all have stories of survival. All of us. It is a reminder that we have lots of conversations that could begin with the words, "I remember when." And there might even be an occasional conversation where the word almost filters in. I remember when I almost. But somehow, somewhere in that story, there is the word, this contraction, but. I remember when I almost, but. And I sometimes hear people evaluate the use of the word but, and they say sometimes they say that it cancels out everything that came before it. But as a writer and as one who has studied linguistics, I don't necessarily agree or ascribe to that premise. Because if I say this, if I say, I fell down, but I did not get injured, the use of the word but doesn't negate or cancel out the fact that I fell down. It simply indicates what some of my young friends would call a plot twist, or a mind shift, or an opposite outcome of what may have been previously expected. You all, I'm going somewhere with this, hang on, because really I'm trying to save somebody's life with this one. And that is exactly what grace does for us. It changes the outcome of what may have been previously expected. I should have died, but grace changed the outcome. I should have given up, but grace changed the outcome. I should have been abandoned or left alone to die, but grace changed the outcome. I should have been in a mental institution, but grace changed the outcome. Should have been consumed by it and perished in it, but grace, you all know where I'm going with this. Grace changed the outcome. You see, if someone tells you that I got in an accident and the car was totaled, but I survived. I'm talking about our survival stories, you all, and how we start out one way and then we interject that word but. If someone because but doesn't cancel out what happened before. Don't let anybody else tell you that again. It does not cancel out what happened before. It just suggests that there's a plot twist, an opposite outcome to what was expected. If I say to you, I got in an accident and the car was totaled, but I survived. The word but does not negate the fact that I got in a car accident. I don't want it to be lost on anybody that I endured a traumatic situation. So no, I don't want it to be canceled. I don't want you to forget that I endured a traumatic situation. I don't want it to be taken for granted or taken lightly that I might have been trapped and mangled in tons of metal. But what I want the horrific moment to be recounted so that you can understand just how terrific is the God who brought me out. No. I want the horrific moment to be told, to be remembered, to be recounted, so that you can understand, to be remembered so that you can understand how terrific is the God who brought me out. Just had an aha moment sitting here with you all, because what am I saying? Don't cancel any part of my story. Wow. Don't cancel any part of my story, but understand the weight of my victory. That's a survival story. Yes, it was going like this and it looked like this, but it turned around and worked like this. That's grace, you all. That's why this quote says, because of grace, we survived on battlegrounds where we should have died. And I want to remind all of us that we have got survival stories. So tell them. Don't ever be ashamed of your survival story or figure that somebody has a better story than yours. No, your story is yours to tell. We've got survival stories to tell, so tell them. We've got survival songs, so sing them. Survival pictures, so paint them. Survival dances, so dance them. Because somewhere they're all rooted in what I call grace. Grace is what carried us on that battlefield, you all. And while others were falling and failing all around us, Christ allowed us to stand and walk off the battlefield. And whether we walk, I better grab my tea, whether we walk off with a limp or whether we were carried on a stretcher, we made it. We endured, we survived, we overcame. And for those who may not have made it, it doesn't mean that God loved them any less than he loved us. It simply means that in that moment, you all, we were blessed with an abundance of grace. And I'm here to tell you all that we can never earn grace. We can never do anything to deserve it. So we have to be careful not to take advantage of it. But how, Cutler, how do we handle it? We have to learn to always give thanks for it. We couldn't earn it. We don't always deserve it. So let's not take advantage of it and always learn to give thanks for it. All right. You all, you know how I do it. I'm only here for 1,800 seconds every Tuesday and Thursday, and I don't want to waste your time. But grace, you all, it is grace that changes the story. It's grace that changes the outcome. It's grace that causes the plot twist. It is because of grace. So you all, we all have survival songs. And I encourage you, sing your survival songs, paint your survival pictures, dance your survival dances, and tell your survival stories. I'd love to hear them. As a matter of fact, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. For those of you who have survival stories and you think nobody else wants to listen. Let me show you this. Right here, here is my email. talk2Cutler@gmail.com. If you have a survival story to tell and you like to tell it, shoot me an email. I'd love to hear it. I tell people often that one of the things that I've been gifted to do is listen. And I listen with compassion. And I promise you that I'll rejoice over you. I promise you this. I will rejoice over your survival story just like it's mine. Indeed, I will. You all do me a favor. Do me a favor. We have a brand new passenger riding along with us this evening. Shakia Soil, is so good to see you. So you all do me a favor. Send love and a shout out to Shakia. You all know how we do. We welcome these new passengers. And again, Raydella, it's good to see you. And Mary Grace, Raydella, Molly, it's good to see all of you all, because we're all on a quest to become better. If you haven't done so, make sure you do a thumbs up on the conversation, and make sure that you subscribe. And if you haven't done so, make sure that you hit that bell so you can receive notifications to let you know whenever I'm on live. I'm just chatting, so it gives me a chance to calm down, because when I think about how many stories of mine where there was a plot twist and where there was a difference of an expected outcome because of grace, I'm thankful. I'm so very thankful. Mika, it's good to see you as well, Mika G. All right, let's go on to our quote for March 9th. Let's go to our quote for March 9th. March 9th, the quote says, when your the quote says, when your problem says pit, P-I-T, when your problem says pit, let your praise say palace. God loves you too much to leave you in a pit. God loves you too much to leave you in a pit. We sometimes talk about the law of attraction. We sometimes talk about the law of attraction, and we talk about the power of positive thinking. But if there is a concept that I truly believe in, it's speaking those things that are not as though they already were. That is a concept that I believe in. I believe in talking good until good shows up. I believe in talking joy until sorrow disappears. I believe in talking hope until despair goes away. I believe in talking positivity until negativity just finds another address. I believe in taking charge of my day to the extent that I can and doing my level best to make sure that when I come to the end of the day, I get the chance to say it was a good one. I believe in not giving in, or rather not giving my authority or control of my day to anybody else. Absolutely not. I'm not signing a power of attorney for anybody to experience my day for me. Not doing it. Now, just as a side note, now if I need you to handle my affairs, that's different. But for the sake of experiencing my day for me and dictating how my day turns out, I'm not doing that to anybody else. You all, I've often said, and I've said it before, no one gets to ruin my day except for the one who runs it. And outside of God, I'm the only one who runs my day. No one gets to ruin your day except for the one who runs it. All right? You all do me a favor. I'm telling y'all, the passengers are coming along. Come on, you all, send a shout out to LO, who's in the chat room, another passenger who's riding along with us. We're so glad. We're so glad to have you riding along with us. All right, you all, but I'm telling you this is my transparency. And I had to learn how to take charge of my day. Nobody gets to ruin my day except for the one who runs it. And outside of God, nobody else runs my day. So no one gets to speak me into a pit. Absolutely not. Nobody will cause my problems to cast me into a pit. Absolutely not. I think about people who have pit days all the time. And I am not belittling anybody's experiences, because here I go again being transparent. I know all too well what it's like to have multiple days when you feel like you're just in a pit. You wake up in the fog and in the darkness and everything is cold, and you look around and all you see is darkness. You don't see any hope. You don't see any peace. You don't see any joy. You don't see any light. And you come to expect that this is the status of your life, that this is as good as it gets. And think about it, y'all. You're in this pit and you're trying to dig your way through the dirt. You're trying to tunnel your way out. And you forget to look up. So I want to remind us all tonight, take a moment and look up. God Almighty. To everybody who will watch this video, catch the replay, take a moment to look up. Cutler, what do you mean when you say look up? When you are in a pit, you all, light shines in from only one direction. But what does it symbolize? It symbolizes the possibility of change. I remember growing up in a pit condition. My mother's one of my favorite passengers who rides along this highway to better with me. And I remember growing up in a pit condition. And my mother worked and worked and worked. You all know, those of you who have been around, you know that story pushes me to some place where I don't always intend to go. And we never seemed to make ends meet. I know people say we did this to make ends meet, but when I was growing up, we never seemed to make the ends meet. But what did my mother do? She kept working, and she told us to have work ethic and to have integrity. She told us, look up and know that it's possible for your condition to change. So in this season, you all, in this National Women's History season, if this National Women's History Month, if I may do that, I celebrate my mother. And I celebrate the fact that although she's not a preacher, not an evangelist, not a missionary, any of that, but she was God conscious and she was God fearing. And somehow she taught me, keep digging, baby, but don't forget to look up. And she will tell you that as a youngster, I learned how to give thanks. I learned, the quote says, when your problem says pit, let your praise say palace. I learned somehow to keep a joyful praise. Mama would tell you that. I learned how to be joyful. I learned how to be hopeful. I would go to the clothesline. Yes, you all, I grew up with a clothesline. I would go to the clothesline and it would take me hours to hang out clothes because somehow I found a song in my heart to sing. I learned how to be joyful. I learned how to be hopeful. Because if I didn't believe anything else, I believed that trouble wouldn't last always. I believed that this too would pass. I believed that I was not created for a pit, and neither were you. I know I'm running over my 1800 seconds, y'all, but I want to share this. So for anybody who's feeling low, for anybody who's feeling that this is as good as it gets, all I want you to know is that change is possible. Better is available. Every day we are faced with the opportunity to dwell on negativity. When people ask me, how are you doing? My response is, I can't complain. And I used to hear people say, well, I can, but I won't. But this affirmation has become such a part of me until I really can't complain. I'm constrained to speak positivity over my life. I've had enough naysayers remind me about my pits and my problems. I've had enough of them to last a lifetime, but they don't get to speak up for me anymore. And don't you let them speak for you. Learn how to speak over your own life. Learn how to encourage yourself. Do like I do, you all. That's why we're riding together. I remind myself that peace is possible. Victory is accessible. I remind myself that success is achievable, that honor is obtainable, that better is always available. I'm telling you all this. I remind myself not to ever spend another night in the pit, because like you, me, we were not created for a pit, but we were created for the palace. You all, thank you for allowing me to share this space with you. Whatever space from where you've joined me, thank you for allowing me to come into that space, whether it's your living room, your dining room, your kitchen, your car, wherever it may be. I'm humbled that you would join me for this time. I'm here every Tuesday, every Thursday, live at 8 o'clock. We're reading From Billboards to Better. And even if you don't have the book, I want you to join the conversation anyway, because we're here. You and I, we're here. And honestly, as I often say, I'm just trying to save your life. Because many times when you give me the feedback, you're helping to save mine. I want to thank you for that. Make sure that you join me this coming Thursday. And do what we always do. You all, listen, I will have been in a in-home safe status now for 1 year tomorrow. 1 year tomorrow. The pandemic is still going on. My hope and my prayers are with all of you all of us, that we stay safe. So as I say every Thursday, every Tuesday, when we go off, I say this: let's continue building community. Let's continue maintaining connectivity. Keep your heads up, but keep your hopes up. Stay safe, stay sane. And until next time when we get together, please know that from my heart to yours, there is so much love. Good night, all.